Welcome to Sales Secrets from the Top 1%, where the world's best sales experts share their secrets to sales success. My name is Bornancin, a serial salesperson and entrepreneur, and I'm sitting down with the world's best sales experts to share their top secrets to sales success. Welcome to Sales Secrets from the Top 1%, where the world's best sales experts share their secrets to sales success. And I am humbled, grateful, and honored to have with me today a guy that has been a huge inspiration, mentor to me personally, professionally, not only in sales, but also in entrepreneurship. Max Altschuler is the founder and CEO of Sales Hacker. He sold his company to Outreach.io. He was the game-changing sales guy at Udemy and Attorney Fee. I mean, dude, man, thank you so much for joining us today. Author of Hacking Sales, author of Career Hacking for Millennials. I don't know what this guy doesn't do, but Max, hey, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me. You missed the new book. We got the new rules of sales engagement coming out soon.
That's right, with you and Manny, right?
Yeah, Manny. We added Mark also, so me, Manny, and Mark.
Wow, that's incredible, man. When does that hit the shelves, or has it?
Around like March 7th, 8th, or something like that.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's going to be a good one, man. Make sure we get like 20 copies over here.
Oh, yeah.
So Max, thank you so much for taking the time to connect here with us today. The audience is dying to know, a few things. Number one, who are you? Where did you come from? Everyone knows you as the guy that's got the content all over the world, speaking at all the sales events, running the sales events, selling the company to big old Outreach.io. People just want to know, like, how did you get started in sales? Where did you come from? What's your background? And then the successes and failures that you had at each of the places that you worked in sales that took you to now being VP of marketing at Outreach.io and this successful thought leader that everyone looks up to. Yeah. And then obviously the last question, what's your top sales secret to sales success? But let's get started with your background, man. Walk me. Where'd you come from and how'd you get started in sales?
Is that a real wooden wall behind you?
Nah.
That's a green screen?
Yeah.
Do you do like a little Hawaiian background? You just switch it?
We switch it up. Yeah. We used to do like the dark wood.
Yeah. It's looking good.
Yeah.
All right. I'll keep going.
Oh yeah. But you're in Seattle right now, aren't you?
Yeah. So I feel like I should have the wood wall behind me, although I got the dungeon wall behind me right now.
Yeah.
But, thanks for having me on. What's my background? I think my first time selling anything was in elementary school. I used to go trick-or-treating, and my parents would put the Halloween candy on top of the refrigerator so I couldn't get to it. One day I climbed up on the cabinets, took all the Halloween candy, put it in my backpack, and sold it on the school bus.
That's awesome.
For all the kids had their school bookstore they'd go to get like pencil sharpeners and stuff like that. And
would you sell for like 50 cents a quarter, a bucket?
Probably, yeah, exactly, right? A couple cents or something like that, whatever they got their pencil sharpeners or their erasers for, but their number 2 pencils. And my dad got a phone call from the principal, and he was like, so your kid brought in all this candy and sold it on the school bus with, parents aren't happy about the kids come home, full of sugar that they didn't give them. But I just thought that was funny. That was kind of like my
that's crazy.
First sales experience.
Was he pissed or was he happy?
He tells me now that he thought it was funny. Yeah. I don't know at the time if he kicked my ass or not. He didn't usually do that, but could have yelled at me. I don't know. I don't remember if he was that upset. So probably wasn't.
Yeah.
But I thought that was funny. And then as I grew up, I always remembered the different prices of the worths of Pokemon cards and Pogs when those were popular. Okay. And I had no idea what they did, but I had this book of all the different, how much they were worth. And I'd trade up, and then I'd go to the flea market and sell them. And so I'd make money. So I'd get a pack, a pack would be a couple bucks or whatever. And then I'd find the good ones and trade up and then sell them. So, it was just like a side thing. I just like making money. I don't know. I was, a little punk kid, and that's what I was figuring out in my spare time. So that kind of materialized into a bike share program that I started in
that's
college.
right. I remember you told me about that
back
in the day.
first big entrepreneurial experience. Got exclusive rights to commercial bike sharing from the state of Arizona for Arizona State University, and got bike rack locations approved, and didn't end up going through with it. We tried to raise some money. It was in the middle of a recession. We were 22-year-olds trying to raise money for a offline bike sharing program. So didn't work, but it was a great, kind of little mini MBA in entrepreneurship, and then parlayed that into a social media business that we ran to make American money while living abroad. And we lived in Costa Rica, Nicaragua, parlayed that into the first BD job at Udemy, built the supply side of that marketplace, went to Attorney Fee where I helped build both sides of the marketplace, sold that to LegalZoom, ended up starting Sales Hacker just because we had a little meetup going, invite-only thing, and people wanted to learn more about these modern sales hacks and things that were finally possible with the use of technology. And so built that business out over the past 5 years, got about 105,000 subscribers now, about 250 monthly visitors, all things B2B sales. And in August, sold them to Outreach, where I was actually an early investor. So I came in the pre-seed angel round to Outreach, and then helped them raise their seed, and
nice.
kind of watched them from afar over the last few years, but made a lot of sense. I know how to market to salespeople, having the community that I do, and so now I'm running marketing, which is new, and it actually makes a lot of sense to have a VP of marketing at a company who, one, knows how to market and build a community like we did, but two, has been in sales for the leading sales engagement platform. It's like, it's the right fit. If you get a marketer from a different industry that doesn't know how to sell to, doesn't know how to market to salespeople, they're going to swing and miss big time. So I think we're definitely in a place where we need to be, and it feels good. It feels different sitting on this side of the table, though.
Yeah, I bet, dude. So to back up, you did the social media thing where you traveled. What you did a social media business so you could travel abroad? Yeah.
So when we finished the bike share program, I just graduated college, and we knew we weren't going to be able to raise the money. So I was like, oh man, what do I want to do next?
Yeah, probably burnt out a little bit, right?
No, I still like, I did it for a year and a half, but I was also graduating school at the same time. So I wasn't like, energy. I had a lot of energy. And what was a series of events? I graduated, and at the same time, the bike share thing just looked like it wasn't going to work. We needed to raise too much money, and it would have been like a huge liability issue, and it just didn't seem to be worth it. One of those ideas is like, cool, let somebody else do it. So I was looking at what other businesses I could start, and one of the things I was doing was arbitrage on Upwork, selling Facebook likes and other things where people didn't know how to use programs like awesome. Fiverr and Upwork. I can sell it to them for more money and then get the service done, online. And what I realized is all of it combined equaled, social media campaigns and social media marketing. At the same time, Yelp, Foursquare, Facebook for Business was really starting to pick up. So we built a business almost overnight. I locked myself in my Arizona apartment. I was at Arizona State still at the time, and I had two of my buddies come down from LA that were trying to get out of their jobs that they hated. So we locked ourselves in the apartment for 2 weeks with Chipotle, a bunch of beer, Red Bulls, Monster energy drinks, 5-Hour Energies, and Adderall probably. And cranked out a business. And at the end of 2 weeks, we did $5K in sales on this new business. Damn. We're like, all right. And all we wanted to do was run it from Nicaragua, Costa Rica, and surf during the days, do some work and hang out on the beach. It was more we all got to get in career mode after we graduate. But why not see if we can make this a job, 4-hour work week style. So started there. And because of my background in the arbitrage, I was able to build out virtual assistant teams and get a lot of the work done that you would charge for let's say an American worker to do, that you can outsource for a lot cheaper. And that kind of set the stage. I mean, if I were to recommend anybody starting a business right now where they wanted to build a lifestyle business, I would do that. In an instant, that's the easiest thing to spin up and do.
When you say do that, start a consulting, a remote consulting company?
Or some kind of arbitrage where I would hire people in the Philippines or remotely to do the work, and then I would charge. Yeah, exactly.
Got it.
A lot of the content, SEO, keyword research. What else? There are a lot of things that we do in the background at Sales Hacker, in the past that we outsource. And it's not to like an outsourced organization. Like we hire people in the Philippines and India and they do the work.
Just get it done.
So you're paying people like
a few bucks an hour,
$1,000 to $1,500 a month instead of $10,000 to $15,000 a month for similar quality work, really.
Yep. That's awesome. And that kind of reminds me of one of the guys that you know, and I know, Scott Britton. He was big when he was younger on like selling courses and doing all this sales hacking shit while traveling.
Yep.
I always wanted to do that, but I was always the guy that just grinded on a startup, but didn't ever do it remote. I wish I did it your way. But oh well, we're here now. Okay. So cool, man. So then, this leads into your next gig. So Udemy, I am a Udemy course purchaser holic. I'll buy 1,000 Udemy courses, start most of them, never finish. So what was your experience at Udemy selling, because you joined them when they were a startup, right?
Yeah. Experience selling. So I came in and there was really like no process, and we were kind of throwing a bunch of stuff at the wall. We had courses in different categories. And when I came in, it was like, all right, it's time to get really tight around how we're going to grow this marketplace. And so I was in charge of the supply side, the instructor side, the course side of the marketplace.
Awesome.
And so first thing we did was we need to pick a vertical. That was logical. We picked the technology vertical,
like pick a niche and get rich. Because if you don't have any of the teachers, you're not going to be able to get any students, right?
Well, yeah, building a marketplace is growing like multiple businesses at once. It's like you gotta go real deep on like one thing at a time, and then like you can level up the other side. So it's like you pick technology. Let's level up the instructors there, and then we can level up the students. Instructors, students, and then it's like, okay, you have that. Then like go one chain link next door. So what's next to technology? Design, photography, things like that. Like if you do that, then you can suck off your or draft off your customer base that you already have into those courses. So for example, if like you have people who are there to take PHP and Ruby on Rails and like programming courses, it's very easy for you to get them to then take design courses, because that's like, a lateral move.
Yeah.
And then, photography courses, because design and photography makes sense. But if you have those people and then you're like, learn how to like get jacked and go to the gym. It's like, or learn how to play baseball.
Non-relative.
Like, two totally different things, right? So you might not be able to draft off or pull those people over into those other courses. Now you got to like start from scratch on a whole new vertical. It doesn't really make sense. So I remember like running tests where we would launch new verticals, and we launched a yoga course, and it was like yoga for posture. And so we did an A/B test. We like launched it as yoga for posture, and then yoga for people who sit at desks all day and like, or sit at computers all day. They're basically the same thing, right? But like,
same premise, different title.
Yeah. And the desk one worked a lot better with our audience because our audience was sitting at desks all day programming. So just an interesting tidbit there. But
damn. So so I bet you did a ton of hacky shit to get all these instructors, or was it pretty normal?
Yeah. We had a team of 6 in the Philippines that acted as our SDRs. So we empowered them as SDRs. In order to figure out what courses we need to go get first and what like we're going to be the most popular courses in order to get the most students, we went on Amazon. We looked at best programming books, and we saw popularity there. And so we went after those first.
So smart.
We went after authors, people who already had videos out there. We had a keyword SEO tool that we used to go do keyword strings. So for example, if I wanted my virtual assistants to find courses in PHP, which is a programming language, I would put in these keyword boxes. In box 1, like beginners, intermediate, advanced. In box 2, PHP. In box 3, courses, videos, instructional lectures, whatever else. Press like generate, and it would generate threads like
search strings.
Beginner, yeah, exactly. Like beginners PHP courses, beginners PHP lectures, intermediate PHP courses, intermediate. So like when they go to search, they would just take that readout and they would put it in all the content search engines like Google and Bing, but also like YouTube, SlideShare, Slide6, Vimeo, Wistia, whatever else. So they'd go through that. They'd follow the rabbit down the hole. They'd get the email addresses, and then they'd throw them into a sequence on ToutApp. At the time, we were using Tout.
TK
and TK was an early early member of the Sales Hacker meetups that we were doing. So we had a group that would meet.
It's awesome. It was funny. I was just talking to him on LinkedIn yesterday.
Yeah, he's good. He's a good dude. We had a couple other guys in there, Ryan Buckley and Xander Ford, who were building Python scrapers and scraping Crunchbase. I think Ryan's article is still out there somewhere. We had another guy, Matt Ellsworth, who was at Storefront, who was doing it using Import.io, which was pretty much like a web scraper that you didn't need to know how to program for. I'm not sure if it still exists, but it was really interesting, and that ended up helping us kind of hack together this process that allowed us to scale faster.
That's awesome.
We would have otherwise.
The Philippine outsourced SDRs to come up and start prospecting all of these instructors. Was it easy to get them to commit to join, or no? It was like was it a hard pitch or pretty easy because they already had the content?
For the ones that already had the content, it was easier. Definitely. That was like our low-hanging fruit. For ones that didn't and they had to create content from scratch, that was tough. Most people weren't familiar with video. So like a lot of these big businesses, like these big marketplaces or these big kind of like peer-to-peer networks like Uber, other things, they didn't exist because the technology wasn't there. So for Uber didn't exist previously because you didn't have a smartphone. And once like the iPhone existed, then you were able to do the actions needed to be able to hail a car with an app.
Right.
Before that wouldn't have worked, right? Like you could have made it text-based, but it just wouldn't have been the same. You wouldn't be able to see what the driver is or any other information. Same thing with Udemy. Udemy is possible because anyone could teach a course. And it's only possible because you now have software and hardware in your computers and your phones that allow you to teach a course at high quality without any special purchases of like massive camera stuff. I'm in the studio right now. So it was the right time in terms of technology, but not in terms of expertise. So most of these people who were authors who were, incredibly, brilliant, expert PHP programmers that could write a book on it still didn't have the expertise to go and like create a course on it.
True.
So it was a really heavyweight sell. And they were all sitting there like, well, making enough money off my book. Why would I create a course also? Like, what do I need that for? We were too early. There wasn't a lot of social proof. So it was a pretty heavyweight sell, but we moved pretty fast. And luckily fortunately we were good at what we did.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I've been a huge Udemy fan ever since the beginning, since you were there. I still own so many damn courses. It's bad. Because anything that I want to do, I'll buy it, and then I'll take like 20 minutes and then move on.
Keep buying, man. Keep buying. Just keep spending that money.
Yeah, I'll just keep. Every time I do it, I was like, "This is for Max's kids if he ever has any one day."
Exactly.
Okay, so then you're like, "All right, I'm out. I'm kind of sick of doing this." You wanted to do another, like, I know you went to LegalZoom, which became Attorney Fee, right?
Attorney Fee, which became LegalZoom. Yeah.
Yeah.
And was doing similar stuff to what we were doing at Udemy. We were working out of LegalZoom's office, so we knew it was going to be a quick acquisition there. And then did that.
Same hacking stuff, like go reach out to lawyers to get them to join the marketplace using the same type of approach.
Yeah, and like kind of did that one for the money. Like knew that was going to be a quick acquisition, in and out type deal, and we were already working out of their offices. Made a lot of sense, like the founding team. So got in and out of that one. That was like right after Udemy. Yeah. They wanted me to stay on, but they wanted me to switch to marketing and move to Austin. And at that time, I was just like, no, I just started to build a name for myself in San Francisco in sales. Like, neither of those two things are interesting.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to work for a big company if the upside wasn't there either. So went back to my Sales Hacker meetup group that we were doing, like still our underground invite only meetup. And I went back.
How many people at the time?
And that one we had like 20, and we'd been doing it for about a year.
Super
so we started
small.
It was invite only, and only bring people who add value. And I I remember that one. I said, hey, not gonna be working at attorney fee anymore after this acquisition. Who here would be interested if I started did a conference around, all the stuff that we're talking about. And in the room I had Jason Lemkin, who at the time I think at that time he had just left Adobe, which had bought his previous company. He was the CEO of EchoSign.
He's amazing. I love his content.
He's great. All these guys, work. I mean, Doug Landis, VP of Sales Productivity at Box at the time. Armando Mann, VP of Sales at Relate IQ at the time, which was about to sell to Salesforce. Matt Cameron, who had just joined as the VP of, or CRO at Scripted, but he was the VP of Global Sales at Yammer. Who else was in the room? TK, who ended up sponsoring from ToutApp. Ryan Buckley, who ended up sponsoring from Scripted. A couple other guys. So it was a really good crowd.
Yeah, great group of guys. So you say, hey, I've got this idea. I'm thinking about running this event. What would they say to you?
Yeah, I'm in. They raised their hand. I mean, all those guys spoke or sponsored. So right off the bat, pretty successful. Got 300 people to come. Most of them paid.
Didn't you get the event space? Didn't you get the event space free? And
didn't get the event space free, but in 4 weeks worth of work, made $60,000 profit. I was like, oh, there's a business here. People want this.
Yeah.
At the time, also, there weren't a lot of sales events. Now,
that was the first one. One of the first one you did.
Every
that in
Dreamforce conference. It was us, Sales 3.0, and AISP, and now there are just a million other different sales and marketing events. So got saturated. We had to pivot out of that. And last year with the media company, we did pivot out of that into pretty much most of our revenue, almost all of our profits come from digital initiatives until we got acquired. So we made a fairly large pivot away from events into fully digital.
Yeah, and when you were doing that, so to grow Sales Hacker, you were running the events. And I remember we talked when I was in Ohio and New York, and I was talking about running an event. At the beginning, you're like, hey, we could do franchises in different states. And that was one model. The other model was just you owned it. You would go to different cities, but you were trying to figure out the logistics. So how did you scale it from the 300-person event to the behemoth that it became?
Yeah. So we did a 300-person event. Then we opened up the blog where I started posting, and we had other friends of ours guest posting. Then we started meetups. We did 32 cities globally for meetups at one point at our largest, where we had people like yourself who wanted to raise their hand and build their networks locally, say they were going to do a Sales Hacker meetup. Then we grew the conference to a 1,500-person conference with Sales Stack and Revenue Summit. We picked up SaaStr, the SaaStr annual, and built the largest SaaS conference on the planet for the first 2 years. And, that was through the Jason Lemkin connection, who spoke at the first conference. We did that for the first 2 years. Now he runs that thing on his own. Launched Revenue Summit, launched Sales Machine, where we partnered up with Salesforce. So we did a joint conference with Salesforce. I think we're the only company they've ever worked with where they've done a joint conference with.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, and got to know the ins and outs of working with a company like that.
So you kind of just figured out the business model to do these events, and then you started creating other proprietary events in other cities that would generate a ton of revenue?
Yeah, exactly. And then once we realized they were becoming too saturated or weren't worth the squeeze, we turned everything digital. So that's when we started focusing on SEO, focusing on our subscriber list, focusing on webinars, our podcast, things like that, getting other areas of our business spun up. I remember I was so against the podcast for so long because I was like, there's so many podcasts out there. What do we need to do a podcast for? So many sales podcasts.
That's funny.
And we did a survey to our audience, and one of our questions, everybody came back and they said they wanted a podcast. So I said to my team, and my team was begging for a podcast. So I said to them, I was like, listen, we'll do a podcast, but it has to be it can't be the same shit. It can't be the same old podcast. And it has to be run by somebody who is so good at the process stuff and like ins and outs of how sales works, but is also dynamic enough to run a podcast. And I didn't know a lot of people like that that at least that had the time.
Yep.
But the first guy I thought of was Sam Jacobs in New York City, who had become a good friend through the scene. And I went to him with this and was like, hey, this is my criteria. I thought of you. Do you want to do it? He's been a phenomenal host for us. And we're up to like 3,500 listeners an episode or something like that now. So
yeah, that's awesome, man.
Pretty good.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's really exciting. And so it's interesting when you talk about events, you've got two audiences, kind of like your marketplaces that you used to sell. You got to get the speakers, three audiences: speakers, sponsors, and then attendees. It's almost like, okay, you got to sell the speakers, you got to sell the sponsors, you got to sell the event, the attendees. Did it seem like shit? I've been doing that since I started selling at Udemy.
Yeah, it's not that hard. I mean, selling the sponsors is, B2B sales. Selling the speakers is going through my networks and putting together, just like why we're different and why you want to get in front of this group. But really, it's just about building relationships. Same thing with sponsorships. It's like, it's a partnership. I don't expect anybody to spend money with me in the future if they don't get ROI now. So we did our best to the small organization to make sure that like we had a high touch, how do we introduce you to the right people type mindset. And we have a lot of, especially once we got into digital, we were able to control that a little bit better. And like most of our sponsors come back, it's like extremely high. I think Scott said it was like 90, 95% or something like that.
Wow.
So when you're able to control it a little bit more and you look at it like a partnership, people will continue working with you. I think.
What was your biggest sales success and biggest failure / learning opportunity when you were doing Sales Hacker?
Oh man, landing that partnership with Salesforce was my biggest success and my biggest failure at the same time.
For Sales Machine?
Yeah. For
yeah. Oh shit. Well, yeah. Walk me through that. Like, walk us through that. What is it?
I mean, we're the only company they ever worked with on an agreement like this. So like that's pretty unreal. And I didn't have to sell my soul to do it. Like, it put us on the map. It definitely opened us up to like enterprise and TAM expansion, things that we wanted. Like, we didn't want to just be like a mid-market tech, publication. We want to be there for the future of sales for everyone. So on so many levels, it was a massive success. Financially, we had control over the event, but I did a lot of things that I wouldn't have normally done. And I said yes to a lot of things I wouldn't have normally said yes to for the first one. And so it's an event.
What are some examples? Like, if you could throw any out there.
The big name speakers, like we didn't need 5 of them. It's just like unnecessary money that was spent.
So you were throwing out a lot of money to bring in these big heavyweights.
Yeah, when we didn't need to. We almost like went too aggressive. And I had a big deal signed with Salesforce for this event, but like they're still a massive organization. Doesn't mean that their salespeople are gonna push it like they do Dreamforce. So like when I did this deal, I'm like, oh my God, they get 300,000 people to come to town for Dreamforce, 60,000 people actually like buy tickets. There's no way we're not going to get like 2,500 to like 5,000 people for this New York event. But even with the big name speakers, I think we ended up with around, a little less than 2,000 people on a flow. But New York's different.
Still a lot of people.
It's
still a lot of people.
Yeah, but I budgeted it as if we were going to get more. So like instead of making a couple $100,000 or more on the event, we didn't really make much on that one. So it was still a success because we did this event with Salesforce. They signed up for the second one. It was a great event, but we're a business that needs to make money, and fortunately, I wasn't relying on it to like float my business, but it was definitely like shit. We missed out on a massive opportunity to make a lot more money.
Yeah, and were you able to sell sponsorships because Salesforce was
no. We had a lot of sponsorships that we were able to sell for that.
Okay.
It just if we had run the first one like we ran the second one, I'm talking about like a $300,000 swing in our bank account.
Wow.
So that's, to me, that's a miss. That's a failure. And like looking back on it, yeah, it's more money. Like it didn't sink our business in any way, shape, or form, but shit, we should have made more money.
Yep. Yeah. And how did things go? And by the way, it sounds like you learned a lot and you were able to apply it moving forward. Yeah. So
it was all by it was all on me, by the way. Like, these are things I should have pushed back on. Like, Salesforce is a great partner. Those learnings were like learnings that were on me. And you know what? Like, it's expensive learning, expensive lesson. But
yeah, it's hard when you don't have the data, right? Like, you don't have the data to know how this one first time thing with a new massive, largest CRM in the world is going to go. When you know that Dreamforce, you got the data on Dreamforce, like, you could only make projections, and it sounds like the projections were just overshot, but did the second one go 10 times better?
Yeah, a lot better.
Because you had the data, you knew what you fucked up, you knew what you had to optimize. Yeah. And then when I say mess up, I mean, like, you knew what you over projected or what you shouldn't have done moving forward. Damn. Okay. Awesome. So then you start to realize that the event space just gets totally crowded, I guess. And you're like, hey, we're going to double, triple down on going online with like webinars, co-sponsoring content, right? Like, how did that impact revenue? Like, was it a 2x increase by doing that, 5x, 1x, or did it just save the business? Like, how did that change?
In a lot of ways, it saved the business. I wouldn't say it's a revenue increase because we were making a lot of money from the in-person events. I think we were able to offer a better product to our sponsors and our listeners, viewers, free education. But we were able to make more profit, better margins, because conferences have a lot of expenses, whereas these digital initiatives don't. So we basically flipped our revenue from events to digital, but our margins went up significantly. So we made a lot more money, and it was a lot less work from us. Like, there are plenty of times where I'd throw a conference and a week or two before the conference be like, oh my God, I got to sell a lot of tickets. What am I going to do? We got to make up this margin, blah, blah, blah. With these events, digital, it was just a lot easier. Now that it has its own problems, and we had to make sure we didn't become an agency. So, like, start doing all the content for you.
Right.
Most of the partners, we did a good job on that, and definitely saw areas of expansion. And even before we got acquired by Outreach, there were probably 3 or 4 different directions we can go in terms of, where do we want to take this business? And the Outreach acquisition, along with a couple other suitors, were some of the better directions. So it made a lot of sense.
Yes. So that leads into the next question. You've been an entrepreneur since I've known you forever, like since the Udemy and LegalZoom attorney fee days. You just sold, like, what made you decide, you know what, I'm going to sell to Outreach? How did that, like, obviously Manny's you just raised this big round of funding. He's looking to get the company out there, I assume, and looking for the best venues for marketing and revenue and reach and TAM acquisition. Like, I guess what made you decide, like, yeah, we'd be able to acquire, like, did he come to you and he's like, hey man, I'm thinking about this? And like, how did that go down?
So when you're a CEO and you're a salesman, you're always selling. So right. I could have sold my business to three different categories. SaaS company, a research and advisory firm, like a Serious Decisions, Gartner, Forrester, those types.
Yep.
Or a like training consulting partner, like a Miller Hyman or something like that. So those are my 3 buckets. So I had 3 decks ready at all times. One for SaaS, one for training.
So you were shopping, like when you were.
No, I wasn't shopping. I didn't just send those decks out. I always had the decks ready, like why we were good. They were always up to date. And then I always had a spreadsheet going with relationship strength, company, vertical, all those different types of things. So, whether it was like LinkedIn, HubSpot, Marketo, Salesforce, Outreach, Sales Off, Drift, whatever else. And then in the research and advisory category, the research and advisory companies, in the, training consulting category, all the training, consulting companies, and who I knew there, what the relationship strength was, all that kind of stuff. So I went to Unleash, and I sat down with Manny and just kind of was like, what keeps you up at night? And he was like, we we're not as strong as I'd like to be in the marketing side of the house. And we got to get there. And so, I know how to market to salespeople. Got 105,000 person community, right? So
you've been doing it for a decade. Shit, I don't even know if it's been a decade, but for a while.
5 years on outreach next March, so in a couple months, but on Sales Hacker, but still a decent amount of time, and still like I don't know a lot of people who built the community as large as we have, focused on salespeople. So we know how to market to salespeople. So that got the conversation going. And then he went out on his wedding. We looked at all of our options and started. And
it's funny. One of Manny's best friends was in my VC accelerator. So it's just funny because like this guy's like, oh yeah, I'm best friends with Manny, and I'm like, yeah, me too, right? He's like, like everyone's like, yeah, I'm best friends with Max, I'm best friends with Brian, like, yeah, me too, like, yeah, I'm best friends with Jason Lemkin. Yeah. It's like bullshit, and he's like, no, look, and I'm like, oh fuck, you really are.
Yeah, and that's really funny.
Yeah, so dude, that's crazy. Okay, so he goes to the wedding, and I remember my guy at I'm not going to drop his name, but he goes to Manny's wedding as well. So then what happens?
Yeah. So when he got back, we were still going strong on and looking at like, what we're going to do over the next year or two, what's going to be our next evolution. We had just moved into this digital space, and I think we had proven a plan there. Like as soon as you get to a level and you feel like you're there, now it's time to start like optimizing for the next level. So we were very much in that stage of like, what's next? And so heated up the conversations, and yeah, got a deal done. I was an early investor again, so I knew the founders here.
Yeah,
I got to come in.
Andrew.
I got to come in, meet the founding team, the executives. I wasn't shopping it around, but I was talking to a couple other companies before, previously. So we had quite a few come inbound over the years.
No, that's amazing, man. Super happy for you. It sounds like it's an amazing fit, and we're an outreach customer. I think Manny, Andrew, and those guys just built an incredible product. I look up to them for product inspiration the most. The design and everything is just beautiful, and it's incredible. So we're super happy.
Only getting better.
Oh, yeah.
We're just scratching the surface. That's my favorite part.
I hope so, because I got 20 sales guys now using it for their lifeblood. You add the seamless leads with the outreach, man, it's game over.
It is.
So, okay, you've had a tremendous amount of success. It doesn't really seem like you've had a lot of failure. Like, do you feel like you've had a lot of failure?
Yeah, I think plenty. I mean, like along the way, there's been times where I've come home and I've stared at the ceiling and been like, what the fuck am I going to do? Laying on the floor, dog comes over, licks your face, and then you realize, you're not a heart surgeon. You will survive. But there's been plenty of times. I mean, that Salesforce event for me was, in a lot of ways, what felt like a failure. It was like, it didn't bomb our company, but like, we're bootstrapped. I don't have a fucking...
you don't have VCs.
Yeah, exactly. I don't have VC money being pumped in this thing. Like we can't afford to like not make money on these conferences, right? So we had to figure something out. And what happens when you fail like that is you do figure things out. Like I had to like push off payments till later in the year, or like basically put me on a payment plan, or come up with like different things I could sell to sponsors immediately, so that I can, start getting pay the bills, some new money in. Yeah. So like that was a bad one. There have been plenty of conferences.
How do you stay so motivated, do you think? Like, where does this motivation come from, right? Like, because like to do the events, you got to be highly motivated to just like go through some of the learning experiences. Like
be an entrepreneur. Yeah. You want to build something, man. Like, nobody wants to fail. And the only way to really fail is to quit, right? Like, there are plenty of times where I've failed, but like pushed through and turned it into something. Failed, pushed through, turned it into like I can't think of a lot of failures where like I failed and it just stopped. Like my bike share program failed, and we couldn't raise the money, but that like turned into another business. When the social media business, we stopped that. Like that's a failure. That didn't exit or anything like that, but that turned into Udemy. I eventually left Udemy. Like I don't consider that a failure. but like I didn't have some kind of like outcome or something like that. So like then you go and you just like continue parlaying these things into the next opportunity. It's a career. It's it's and
you just get used to it, almost conditioned. It sounds
yeah,
like
as an entrepreneur, these aren't jobs. This is a career. It all rolls into the next thing. It rolls into the next thing. Like, and eventually you want some outcomes. You want some cash. Like, luckily Sales Hacker had, decent cash flow, at many times. So I was, I had my own money that I wanted to keep separate from like what was being put back into the business. And in this acquisition, it was cash and stock. So like I had an outcome from this, but like my big outcome is going to be when Udemy and Outreach, exit in some way.
That's awesome, man.
And really,
it's going to be big.
It's when Outreach does.
Sounds like I'm paying for both these companies, man, that you've got money in. Hey, at least they're a customer. Yeah. And I mean, I'm a serial salesperson and entrepreneur. Like my first company in the gambling industry was huge. My second company, I lost millions, made millions, lost millions, said I was never going to do entrepreneurship again. Then did 3 years at IBM sales and then Google sales for another 3.5 years and then started Seamless. So like, I get it. You just get used to like taking big risks and working your ass off. And I like what you said, as long as you don't quit in sales or in entrepreneurship, you just keep going. Now
you gotta have purpose, man. Like, had I not made any money to date, I don't know if I'd be upset. Like I just spent a couple of years traveling, working on businesses that I really liked. I built my brand. That's a transferable asset I'll be able to take with me anywhere. Like if I wanted to go get a job right now, like, and I wasn't, let's say that Outreach didn't acquire Sales Hacker and Sales Hacker just wasn't making any money anymore. And I need to go get a job somewhere. Like I can get a job at any one of these companies now because I have a brand and a network that are both like transferable assets for me that I can use. And that's what I'm trying to do. My whole team, like you look at Scott Barker, who's an up and comer. I mean, he came and worked for me.
Love Scott.
But he could probably make more money going to be a director of sales or a sales development, director somewhere right now. Like definitely could make more money. If he actually moved to the outreach side of the house and went into a sales, like a true sales role, he could probably make more money. Like he's doing the best thing for his career, which is basically being Max Prime and, being one of the faces of Sales Hacker and being around.
Max
and
Prime.
Yeah.
I love that.
Like,
that's funny.
He's doing a great job at it. Like he's his own man. Like I'm not sitting here like, hey, you should do this, you should do that. Like he's taking the initiative and he's done a fantastic job. Like what he's doing right now is better for his career than the extra 10 or 20K he can make somewhere else. You look at somebody like Morgan Ingram, same thing. Like he's working for John, building his brand, building his network.
Yeah, we just had him on the show.
Yeah, and what he's doing, I mean, he could probably make more as a sales development leader somewhere, but he's investing in his future because after this, he can go do whatever he wants with a network and an influence that he has or is building. So I don't know. I mean, I think that like it's all part of the journey.
Yep. And you got to have that big vision, passion, purpose. Okay, so that leads us to the most important question that everyone's dying to know. You've got an audience of hundreds of thousands of salespeople. You've sold your entire career since you were a kid selling the candy bars from Halloween that you took from your parents, poor parents stealing candy from them to go make a quarter.
It was my candy. I tried you were hiding it.
You built this massive sales audience. You've worked with thousands of salespeople. You even sold Salesforce themselves, the first dual conference ever in the world. Like, in your opinion, if you had to go back and start in sales, to start it all, or if you had to hire someone and give them a job, what is your top sales secret to sales success? If you could give it to anyone, what would it be?
Oh man, it really is so situational dependent. If you were a entrepreneur starting from scratch, I'd say go find ways to be resourceful, go find ways to outsource things, automate things, figure out how to scale yourself first and foremost, because you're not going to be able to sell to everyone. So if you could find ways to, that's why I love outreach so much. If I could find ways to clone myself, I'm going to take full advantage of that. Right. So how do I do that? How do I get the most out of my ability instead of just being, just little old me? If you're a sales individual.
Yeah, and this is really for like people that are new to sales, people that are in sales that are average that want to get to the top 1%, and then people that want to go from the top 1% to the $1 million earners. Build
your brand, build your network, get out there, share, help, engage with other people who are sharing and helping. Get out of your little silo, whether it's on LinkedIn or local meetups or conferences or whatever. Meet people. That's your modern Rolodex. That's your your word, your action, all that kind of stuff. I mean, I got like 25,000 followers on LinkedIn, but really it's 105,000 followers or people on Sales Hack or whatever it is. A lot of these people know who I am. They read my book, or they follow me on LinkedIn, or they read Sales Hacker or something else. And those are people I can turn to or tap and say, hey, I've helped you for so long. What else can I do? How do we stay in touch? How can I help you? Or, hey, here's how you can help me. And I think like at some point you earn that right, to make that ask, but also like just staying on the radar. That might not ever be an ask, but that's okay. Because as long as you're top of mind, you're going to win. It's going to be easy for you. So LinkedIn is like your 3D Rolodex almost.
Yeah, I love that. So you have to build your network, and you've been a guy that built events to help people build their network. And what are some of the best ways, like if you're new to sales or if you've been in sales and you just feel that, we're not doing much to build our network, you're an expert at it. What would be like your roadmap or recommendations to how one can go about building their network?
Yeah, LinkedIn, engaging with people in your circles. That's your low hanging fruit.
So jump on LinkedIn and then do what?
Jump on LinkedIn and go find people who are talking about things that you want to talk about and go engage with them.
Yeah. And someone cold, like just because you're an expert, are people like you pretty open to networking and engaging with people that like are in sales, but you've never met before?
I'm not going to take a 15-minute phone call with you if you're sending me a random like generic, in-mail. But if you're on my content, on my feed, engaging with my updates, things like that, I'm going to get to know you. Like I'm going to see your face a bunch of times over and over again. I'm going to be appreciative that you engage with my content. And then at some point, when we cross paths, I'm going to know who you are. And that's great. Now I know who you are. You're top of mind, right? When somebody asks me like, oh, who are the up and coming reps? It's like, I just met this one rep who's doing a really good job of staying top of mind. Like I'm never going to know how good you are at selling unless you've sold to me. And let's be real. Like I'm not really getting deep into those conversations right now. So, I'm just not going to know anyway.
Yeah. But you're saying like if for a rep or a salesperson to grow their network, just get on there and start engaging, start valuing these people and start connecting. And hey, how does one, do you recommend that salespeople start creating content? Like you're a content king, right? Obviously, Sales Hacker, you produce content, original content every day. Yeah. What's your recommendation for salespeople that want to start creating content to become like a subject matter expert?
Start getting on podcasts. Start talking about it. Start engaging with content. Start making a name for yourself. It's not an overnight thing. I mean, if you just like start writing from scratch and sharing and helping and you just got to go. You just got to make it happen. You can't sit back and prod. Object emotion stays in motion. Just go, just write, just share, just get on LinkedIn. Like there's no wrong things to do other than like being a dick or harassing somebody or trying to like beg somebody to get on a phone call with you. Just go on and engage, be genuine, be authentic.
Try to deliver value.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny because you talk about like being helpful. When was the first time that you wrote something? Because I loved when you came out with the Sales Hacker book, the first one that you did, Hacking Sales. Dude, and that really inspired me. I was like, man, if Max could do this, I want to do this. Like you were just like this guy that I really admired. You still are, obviously. But, I remember the first video I shot. It was 4 years ago and it got like 7 views. And then like you just hit failure and you just keep going and going and going. Like, do you remember the first piece of content that you wrote? How long ago? What was it? Like, because it's something that you kind of like have to commit to every day or every week, month.
When I was at Udemy, I started a blog called Max Talks Hacks, and I probably posted 5 articles on like the process that we were doing there. And then those eventually made it on the Sales Hacker. So you can probably find them if you like search for me as the author on Sales Hacker and go back to March of 2014. I probably wrote those in September of 2000, or maybe even earlier.
11 or something, 12?
March of 2013. No, it would have been that year, March of 2013 or something like that.
Wow.
So it was just, I didn't have an audience. And nobody was reading it. It's just write for yourself. You write to catalog it. You write to clarify it. A lot of the writing that I do a lot of free writing. It's clarifying thoughts. It's getting them on paper. It's pulling the emotion out of them. And you have this emotion when you think it, you feel it, you talk about it, whatever. But like when you put it on paper, really easy to like pull the emotion out of it, clarify the thought a little bit better so you can crystallize it. And then, now it's becoming a framework. Now it's becoming like something I could hand off to somebody else. And that's when you like really become the teacher. That's when your content becomes really good. And that's why everything you see on Sales Hacker has like some kind of actionable takeaway to it. Because that's how we started. Everything I've ever written really is, here's the story, here's what's happening, and here are the takeaways that you can do, to improve your life, your work, whatever it is.
Wow. That's amazing, man. So the top sales secret is you have to grow your network. And to get started, the takeaway is start on LinkedIn, start building the connections, start engaging with content, start delivering valuable content to make you a subject matter expert. Anything else you want to add to that top sales secret?
No.
Awesome, man. Max, thank you so much. We're humbled, grateful, and honored to have you on the show today for Sales Secrets from the Top 1%, where the world's best sales experts share their secrets to sales success. Where can people connect, follow, and learn from you for more tips, strategies, and advice?
Follow me on LinkedIn. Great place to start. Obviously, check out our Sales Engagement podcast and upcoming Sales Engagement book at salesengagement.com. Saleshacker.com for all things B2B sales, education, and then, outreach.io, leading sales engagement platform, do all of your activities through outreach. And we work very well with you guys. So looking forward to exciting partnerships between that.
Absolutely. And the big Outreach.io Unleashed conference coming up. We'll be there. Make sure you're there. Awesome. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Sales Secrets from the Top 1%, where the world's best sales experts share their secrets to sales success. Pre-order a copy today at secretsalesbook.com. That's secretsalesbook.com. Thank you for tuning into this episode of Sales Secrets from the Top 1%. We release new episodes every Monday and Thursday, so make sure you subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube to never miss an episode.